Sergeant Reed, welcome to Honor Cafe Hall of Heroes.
It's great, thank you.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where were you from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Kingwood, Texas. It's a little town north of Houston.
So you're pretty much local here then.
I am now. I kind of bounce around. In high school I moved to Las Vegas. So I moved to Las Vegas like 2 weeks before 9/11 happened. It was my junior year of high school. Lived out there for a while and then kind of bounced all around.
So, Sergeant, did you go in the Army or the Marines?
Army.
Army. What did you do in the Army?
I was a 15 Whiskey, a UAS operator, a drone operator.
Drone operator?
Yes, sir.
I've got a lot of questions now.
Okay.
So let's just jump into this. So why drones? And how drones?
Man, I'll tell you, it was a coin flip. And it was the best coin flip ever. So originally when I went in, I wanted to be a firefighter.
Yeah.
And at that time, they started contracting all that out to civilian. So I didn't want to fix anything. I was a little bit older. I didn't go in until I was 24, so I was already married. Now I had 2 kids and 2 stepchildren. So the infantry dream was kind of dead at that point. So it was either going to be air traffic control or this new thing. I'd never heard of UAVs. I said, that kind of sounds cool. And when I was sitting at MEPS, I didn't know what to do, so I pulled the quarter out of my pocket and flipped a coin. And
that was a good pick because everybody thinks drones, they think the Air Force, but the Army has drones, and I didn't find that out till like I was in Afghanistan, and we were up north. Actually, we were up north in Uzbekistan, I think it was, and they were shooting these things that looked like a slingshot thing, and they were catching them in nets. And I was like,
yeah.
What are they doing? And it was drones, and I had no idea that the Army was using drones at that point. So what type of drones did you?
So my primary aircraft was it's called RQ-7 Bravo Shadow. So it's about a 21-foot wingspan. It can stay up for like 8 hours.
That's a big bird.
Yeah, so that's it's all line of sight. So you can go in Iraq. You can fly for days. You can go about 120K out. Afghanistan with the terrain, it's a little difficult. You can go about 60 or 70. But I was very fortunate through some of the units that I got to work with. I got qualified in a bunch of other small and were classified as like small UASs.
Yeah.
But the primary was the Shadow, but I got to work with a bunch of different platforms.
So I'm just totally like caught off guard with this because I thought that size was with the Air Force. I didn't realize even the Army had that big of
yeah, so the Air Force, they probably the Preds and the Reapers are bigger, and the Army has those capabilities too. They're little different platforms, but difference between us and the Air Force is we always deployed with the gear. Like I said, most of our stuff was line of sight, so we couldn't fly it from back here in the States. We had to go with it.
So when you were over there with it, what was your primary mission with these?
Mostly surveillance, reconnaissance, a lot of route recon. We sat on a lot of houses. It was different. Half my time was or most of my time was spent in the special operations community. So that was a lot of sitting on houses, just waiting for a dude to show up and then the boys to go do their thing. I finished up my time with an air cav. So they got rid of the Kiowas and they replaced the Kiowas on the attack weapons teams with the Shadow. So it was us and 2 Apache helicopter teams, and we would essentially just go out and prosecute targets all day.
That's crazy because you already answered my questions with the special forces community, because I was going to go right there with you're sitting on them watching the boys go in. And so they got rid of the Kiowas for surveillance, and they used to have the Kiowas they had the big radar thing on the top of them or whatever it was that they could they could call in fire but so that makes sense. But I know for a long time the special ops were still using the Kiowas for missions to go in with those. Did they get rid of those?
I'm not as far as that was a big Army asset. So these had the attack weapons teams would be 2 Kiowas. They'd go out, do recon, peel off, and then 2 Apaches would come in and do whatever their bidding was. Well, they figured out we can stay up for 8 hours or keep continuous coverage, and be so far ahead that Apache can essentially sit behind hill or something pop up, shoot a missile, and we can grab it. So they could shoot that thing up to like. Actually, I probably shouldn't say that.
Yeah, that's okay. But, so when you're in that community, and you're going through the ops and all that, how do you fall into tiers? You know, because I know there's tiers within JSOX, and if you're working within that, how is that?
So when I was at fifth group, we were assigned to. So our chain is USAFIC, and then USASOAC, and then it all falls under SOCOM. When we deployed with it was CJ SOTOS, Combined Joint Special Operations Task Force. So we got to work with a lot of different teams, SEAL teams. I got to work with a couple of CCTs from the Air Force. Those guys were awesome. We covered areas as small as I've been deployed in support of just one ODA, so one team of Green Berets, up to an area of 7 or 8 teams in different villages that we were kind of doing. I guess the mission sets were different depending on where I was. So in Afghanistan, a lot of it was just making noise at night because our drone was pretty loud. Yeah. So we would just fly around these different neighborhood or villages where the teams were doing VSOs and just make noise. Let the locals know we were there. With the air cav, that was like I said, that was my last deployment in the Army was to Iraq in 16 into 17, and we were taking Iraq back. So it was during essentially the final push into Mosul, and all we were doing was just prosecuting targets. It was. Do
you have the capability to launch weapon systems off these?
Not that one specifically, not the Shadow, but Actually, I can't talk about the other one.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'll tell you this one afterwards.
But general question. I do have one question. Was when you were doing that, was Fifth Group still out of Fort Campbell?
Still is, yes, sir.
Still is out of Fort Campbell. I didn't know. I don't keep up with them.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Because they were there when I was there, and
okay.
And so did you when you were using your drones or practicing? You were out for the airfield out there. Or you were working on.
Yeah. Well, not the big airfield.
You were a Sabre.
No, we actually went. We had a training. It was TA-19 out in the back 40, so there was just an airfield out there. That,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
But it was wild. So I got to fifth group. It's a nerdy profession, essentially. Drone operator.
That's why I'm trying to put this together. Where you were these fifth group guys, and they're doing all this, their hardcore training, and here you come in and you haven't. You went to go to selection, right?
No, so I did not have to go to selection. I was not a Green Beret. But it is generally speaking a nerdy profession. So at the time to go, you had to be airborne qualified. So when they came through our AIT and says who wants to go jump out of airplanes, me and one other guy were the only ones that raised our hands, and he actually ended up. We were in basic training, and then we went fifth group together. So went to fifth group. I was there right at AIT. I was there for about a month, and that was when I deployed my first time to Iraq. So yeah, it was wild. It was great because of that opportunity. I got to do a lot of cool training, a lot of things that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten to do.
A lot of people have this misconception about the Green Berets and in the special ops community. They think they're just all these like knuckle draggers. They're not Marines. Okay, they're not.
Right.
They're not just all knuckle draggers. Sorry, Gunny. But they're some of the most professional guys I've ever worked with.
Absolutely.
They're well educated. The mission planning is just incredible. And I know that you may have been the nerd, but I know they appreciated you. And
absolutely.
They treated you like a king probably at times.
I was very, very blessed to get to work with those guys, and same deal. I kind of had that impression, like knuckle dragging meatheads or whatever. But some of them you wouldn't even know. You'd look at them like a short little guy who's kind of older, he's got a little pepper in his beard, and this dude's one of the baddest motherfuckers on the planet.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'll cut that.
He's one of the baddest dudes on the planet. So it's they were always professional and. It was awesome being in that environment to be able to do things kind of outside the box. So it's very much a community of men in the sense of if you're good at what you do and they can trust you, or it doesn't even matter if that's your, I know dudes that they like this kid so much, you're coming with us to be our driver, or you're going to come with us to run the Merc Chad and the Talk or whatever, and that dude's a truck driver or whatever, but he was a good dude. So it was an awesome community. I was so blessed to be a part of it, and I had other opportunities as a result of that, my time there, which we can talk about off camera.
I understand. So what stands out that you can talk about?
Sure.
What stands out the most as we wrap this up?
Man, for me, when I look back on my time, I really I look fondly on like the shenanigans, whether it was stealing. We stole like Third ID. I think it was Third ID or First ID. We stole their colors when we were in Iraq, and they were not too happy about that. One time in Afghanistan we had a situation where we couldn't eat hot food for like 2 months. So we peeled off, went to this big base. We were at a small fire base, and they wouldn't give us, and they'd only give us like one tray each to go. And I had about 60 people to feed. So we broke into their cooler, stole like 150 pounds of meat, shit like that. That's what I miss. Yeah. I miss shenanigans. I miss the tomfoolery. I miss my boys. That's the stuff that stands out. I mean, I was blown up a couple times. I had a couple firefights, but the thing that I really remember is just my guys, and we're all going through it at the same time. So knowing, hey, this dude's got this going on at home, or just that closeness.
Did you expect at all that when you went in this profession that you'd be in combat?
Not at all. No, and like I said, I was a little bit older when I went in, so I thought this is the safer route, and it turns out it took me a lot closer to the fight, which actually was as I got in, it was that young man. Oh, that's what I want, right? I want to deploy. I want to go get in the fight, and man, what a foolish thought that was.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can tell us this or not, and it's okay to close out if you can't. But I know, that UAV operator, just from talking to other individuals in the community, that you guys laugh a lot about some things you see.
Yeah.
From especially using infrared or whatever,
Sure.
What are some of? Can you tell us one of those?
I can tell you a couple. I can tell you a couple of things. So with the IR camera, you can always tell like if somebody takes a dump. They would they'd squat down their dress and they'd walk away, and there'd be a nice hot patch on the camera for a while. What's funny? We used to laugh. We used to joke about, UAV operators with PTSD. But, some of the things I saw are some of the things that stick with me the most, airstrikes or watching our guys get blown up and not being able to do anything about it. Those sorts of things sucked. Not that it's any worse, but
it is hard. They're in your community and you can't do anything about it.
Right.
And you're watching. You're sitting on top of watching it. And a person was alive there, and next thing you know, or even the bad guys, they're gone, and you're seeing all that. But I imagine that does stick. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely. And like I said, I mean, there's a lot of guys that had it way worse than I did. What stands out to me is I'm happy I did it, and I would do it again. I wouldn't change anything, but. Yeah, I guess that's what I got. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but this is great because a lot of people out there don't know this it exists and the experience you can have doing what you did. So
sure.
I just want to thank you. That was a great story.
Oh, awesome.
Okay. All right, Gunny, this is your home. And I just want you to say something to send us out on this interview, because it was just a great time to be out here at Fob Razor and do these interviews today. So thank you. And anything you want to say?
Yeah, just Fob Razor. We're lifers for life. It's one team, one fight. If you need help, we're here, man. You'll help us just as much as we'll help you. I guarantee it. Thanks.
Thanks for being on Honor Cafe Hall of Heroes.
Rah.